Hello, everyone. This is Carlos Casados with Hypnotherapy Breakthrough, and it's the night before Thanksgiving, 2020. It's quite a different year so far. Um, I'm sure everyone's experiencing this strangeness. Anyway, I wanted to leave everyone with a message, and specifically along the same lines as what I have been doing here recently, which has been focused on the tools for developing emotional resilience. There are a lot of them, and I thought that it would be nice to leave another one with you. I will, of course, continue after the holiday. Um, but this one is a simplified version of some other things that I've done. Okay. And I was recently experimenting with this with some clients and with myself and realizing this is a nice quick hack. So, yeah, there's longer versions of this and more sophisticated versions of this, but sometimes having a simple solution is better because you can practice it and it can become ingrained in your thinking and ingrained in your psychology, to really make it like you would with physical reps to train muscle memory. This is psychic reps to train your psychic memory, right? Your way of responding. So, um, all right, so away we go. First of all, what happens when you get caught up in your feelings, right? You get caught up. You usually have like a pattern to how you do that. There's a sense of it happening to you, right? So even though those of us who are in the know will realize that we are deeply participant in what's happening. Like we are co-creating the situation. Yeah, there might be other people involved, but your own internal experience, that's all you, baby. That is you. That is, how you're responding. And it may be something that you've adopted over time. Like, maybe you were raised in such a way that that's just how you did it. You didn't learn an alternate way. It could have been reinforced by various experiences that you've had. But basically, at this point, you become unconsciously competent at doing it. What do I mean by that? Unconscious competence. Well, some of you know that there are four stages to learning. Anything that you learn has to go through these four stages. You go from being unconsciously incompetent, which means that you don't even know that you don't know. It's just sort of a ignorance, right? And then when you know that you don't know, but you want to get good at it, um, you're at that point where you haven't really learned how to do it, so you're conscious of your incompetence. That's the second stage. So that's the point where you create a strategy maybe and start to learn, okay? Um, or you make a plan to learn. So then you move from conscious incompetence to conscious competence. Now, it's a big step. That's a big change. Okay, this is the point at which you're aware that you can do it. You have to focus on it, but you've learned the steps and you've rehearsed them, and maybe you're capable of actually getting through it. And as long as nothing distracts you, you're able to complete it. Okay, but the goal for any kind of skill, for it to actually be a skill, for you to become an expert in something, is you've got to become unconsciously competent at some point. So you got to transform the conscious competence into unconscious competence, where it's almost as if you could, there's a part of you that just does it, even if your conscious mind is on something else, or maybe if you have like a variety of challenges, like unexpected things happen, but you're still able to do it, and it's maybe it seems like you're a little off script, but you're still able to achieve it. This is uh, unconscious competence, and this is what we're seeking to have when we develop any skill. So I want you to know this because there have been 5 videos so far. This is the sixth in this particular pattern that I'm running, which is developing emotional intelligence. And I want you to know that this is not something that just is theoretical. You have to practice the skills. You know, do the drills, develop the skills, as they say. So this is very important that you take this on. That what I'm teaching you right now won't work if you just think about it. You got to do more than think about it. You got to run yourself through the experience of it. Okay? Yeah, there's things that you got to think about, but until you run yourself through simulated experiences and then take those simulated experiences and repeat them so you become unconsciously competent at it, you won't be able to be out in the world having it randomly happen where you're in a situation where you need to apply it and it's off script because you didn't come up with it. It's a random thing that showed up or an unexpected thing that showed up, and still achieve the goal. So that's the deal. So it works like this. Once you have had a negative emotional experience, what typically happens is like those reflexive responses kick in and you react, and then there's like a series of things that you normally do in that situation, and it usually leads to a lot of drama or discomfort or whatever. What I want you to do, and this is something you can easily practice, just draw 3 circles on the ground, okay, or put 3 objects on the ground. It's a really simple idea. Okay? Once you've done that, you're standing in the neutral place, which is not in any of those 3 spots. You're in a neutral place. This is the place where you think. This is where you cogitate about, variations or what were you just doing, or you maybe analyze something or whatever. It's not where you're doing the exercise yet. You're just kind of preparing for it. So this neutral space can be anywhere but those 3 circles or anywhere but those 3 spots. Then the first spot is for you to relive a difficult thing. So in your neutral spot, you think of some situation where your emotions were really challenged, a difficult thing. Once you've got that, you project it mentally with your imagination into the first of the 3 spots. You should be able to step into each spot with 1 step, or with both feet, right? 1 full step, so that it's accessible to you at all times. So I like to put 1 to my right, 1 to the front, and 1 to the left, like you're in a triangle, okay? So in the neutral spot, to reiterate, you're in the neutral spot. You think of a situation or a circumstance that was difficult for you. You project it into the first circle, whichever direction you want to start, left or right or front, doesn't matter. And you picture it as though it's like a movie running in there. There's a little hologram of you going through that experience. And then you step into that circle and you embody it. So you want to see what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt at the time when you're feeling terrible, okay? When you're going through it. So these are the times when you're going to literally allow as much of your memories to resurface. You might feel angry or tearful, tearing. You might have a little bit of fear or whatever. And I would recommend that you start with something that was, mild to medium first before you go to the heavy stuff, okay? Because you need to get good at the skills before you dive into the heavy stuff. Very important, okay? So there you are. You're in that first circle. You're re-experiencing the negativity and all those things. And then the first real step, I would say, the real step is when you stop and notice it. Okay, so this is what you're training in. You already have the capacity to have negative experiences. What you haven't had yet is the training to notice it and stop. Okay, so that's what circle number 2 is all about. As soon as you're ready, as soon as you've really stepped into that feeling fully, stepped into the next circle, that's where you stop and notice. Stop and notice first as if you're looking at yourself. Yeah. Out of your perceptual position like we did in the previous video. And you look at, what was I noticing? Like if I were a really highly skilled, highly observant detective, or I was a social worker that was really skilled in looking at body language, what would I be noticing that I was just experiencing? So if I were talking about myself, I'd say it like this. I'd say, what was Carlos just doing with his body? So I would check, how is he holding his posture? Like what kind of noticeable changes were going on in his face? What was I noticing with, tension or digital flexion, closing the hands or whatever it is? Any kind of coloration changes, anything like that. Then, now that I've noticed from the outside, I do my best to recollect what I was feeling on the inside. So then I'll say, okay, and what was I picturing? Now I shift from pronoun usage from Carlos or he to I. Really simple. What was I picturing in my mind when all of that was going on? Was I catastrophizing and imagining the worst? Was I seeing something that was an external, actual visual thing, like someone screaming at me? So there's two parts to that, right? There's an external visual that was actually happening, and then there's an internal visual, which is what I was picturing in my mind at the time. It's important that you look for both of those. You may not get both of them, but you'll definitely have one of them. Slow down and notice what you were visualizing. Notice maybe even how you were looking at the world, like in a more general sense. How are you seeing the world? Were you seeing the world as an unfriendly place? Then the next thing to do is go to your auditory. Say, hey, what was I hearing? First, externally, what was I hearing? I mean, was it somebody screaming at me? And then internally, what was I hearing? Was I hearing an inner voice that was negative, or was, you know, down talking on myself, like chastising? You know, what was my inner voice doing in that moment? And then, of course, what was the resulting meta kinesthetic feelings? Like, were there any visceral feelings inside of my body that I noticed, like feelings of coldness or heat or pressure, or was there any emotions that were the result of what I was seeing, hearing, and physically holding myself in? You know, how did that loop together into the kinesthetic and the emotional level? So, was there a story in my head? Keep in mind, this is not the time to really dive into re-experiencing. It's the time to notice what you were experiencing. There's a little bit of a difference there. Good. That's the first real step, when you stop and you notice what you were experiencing. First from a dissociated state, second from an associated state. Okay? The next circle, you step into the third circle with this sense of, what do I need? So what is it that I could give myself that is a resource? What is it that if I were to do the opposite, like what would be the remedy for the poison of the first circle? Are there ways that I could immediately change my physical body? Like, could I notice that, oh, well, if before my breath was high up in my chest and it was very rapid, could I then drop into a deeper, calmer set of breathing? If my shoulders were hiked up to my ears, could I then relax my shoulders? If there was furrowing in my eyebrows, could I relax my eyebrows? Could I maybe change where I'm looking and look up or instead of down? Or these are all physiological things on the surface. Then what was I picturing? Can I do the opposite? Can I picture that, you know what? I'm going to see this resolving with a hug, or I'm going to see this resolving with me smiling and feeling free. All right. What was I hearing? Can I imagine maybe me saying something positive, like, hey, you know what? We can work this out. I know this has been tough, but let's work it out. Or something internal, like, hey, you got this, buddy. Carlos, man, you've got resources. You just got to let go now. It's time to trust that you've got this. You know, you've got creativity. You've got a lot of heart, and use your imagination. It's time to do it, man. You can step up into the situation and really be at your best. So these are comments that you might say inside, right? They're auditory comments. And then, is there any kind of emotional qualities, like creative things, like, you know what? I feel like I was at the top of the world, or now I feel like I've just totally determined, like I'm the master of my own fate and my own destiny. I'm captain, right? I'm at the helm of my life. I know I can do this. I've got this, man. I've got this. And maybe I change my tone. I get a little bit loud inside, right? And then a quick check. How else am I feeling? Am I feeling good? Do I feel 100% free of that first feeling in that circle? If so, you're done. Step out. Now you've got 3 different positions, okay? First position is when you step out of the neutral into the first circle, you're stepping into some situation that you want to transform, which is a past situation. Second circle is stopping and observing what you just did. Third circle is reframing and retraining. Okay, you're giving yourself the solution, the antidote to the problem, and you're waiting until you build it so strong, kind of method act your way through it until you really feel that you've busted through, not just to a neutral place, but to an amazing, awesome place, a place that feels good to you. So you're training your brain and your body to be able to step into something that's incredible, that's way past what you were feeling. Okay, it's important that you linger a little longer in this position because you want to train the brain that it's moving towards something amazing, juicy, delicious, and incredible. Make it awesome. That's the whole point. And then step out. What do? Wash, rinse, repeat. Over and over again. Gradually changing the contexts, gradually increasing the intensity level until you feel like you can imagine things that haven't even happened yet. And you can walk yourself through that and you feel incredibly capable of handling it. So competent at transforming your emotions that you feel like no matter what happens, you're going to be great. Okay? Here's a little tip to make it even better. It's so simple. When you go from the first circle into the second circle, take a deep, slow breath. Really cleanse. Because that breath, we all know that breathing is both conscious and unconscious. And when people get locked and their amygdala gets hijacked and they become locked up emotionally, their breath locks up too. So take that deep breath when you step into the observer state. And then when you go from the observer state into the transformative state, the reframe and retrain circle, take another deep breath. Notice that your breathing's changed and it's helping you to ground the new you. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to write me a comment or reach out to me. I'd love to hear your questions, your comments. Try it out. See how it works for you. Notice how this makes a big difference in your life and start to ask yourself how many ways you can use this in your world. Wouldn't that be a good thing to know? Okay. Take care and happy Thanksgiving, everyone.